Hello and welcome to CX Today. I'm Charlie Mitchell, and this week in our big news update, we'll be dissecting some of the latest, most notable news stories from the CX world with some exclusive interviews along the way. In this episode, we'll be introducing some of the biggest news from Salesforce's Dreamforce Bash, discussing new Gartner research that suggests bots will cut contact center agent labor costs by 80 billion before 2026, and also sharing some of the latest forecasts from the CCaaS space. So let's get straight into it. A lot happened at Salesforce's exciting Dreamforce event, and if you did miss some of the news there, CX Today's Isabel Blakemore gives a trending news flash introducing some of the announcements.
AI, automation and efficiency were the words of the day at the Dreamforce conference, Salesforce's annual get-together aimed at showcasing new products and features. The conference featured scores of panels debating the future of the customer experience industry and Salesforce clients recounting successful partnerships, peppered with big and small product announcements. While not explicitly mentioned, it was clear that behind many project launches and feature tweaks stood the spectre of rising consumer prices and a potential recession, which has already started to affect the CX industry. One of the announcements was the Contact Center Genie. As part of the new Genie platform, Salesforce also introduced Contact Center Genie, an AI-powered platform that brings together contact center functionalities like messaging, voice, and bots, while providing real-time assistance to agents. So if you want to hear more about this announcement, and in case you missed some of the most important announcements from the Dreamforce this year, you can click on the link below this video, which will take you to the full article discussing all of this.
I've been speaking to Rebecca Wettemann, Principal at Valoir, Stephen Yap, Director of Research at the CCMA, and Justin Robbins, Senior Director of Corporate Communications and Evangelism at UJET, in a special interview discussing the biggest news over the last couple of weeks from the CX world. This starts with more reaction to the recent news from Salesforce's Dreamforce Bash. Let's take a look. Let's get straight into those questions that I'm really excited to put to you both. And Rebecca, I'll put this one to you first, because I know you have a keen eye on the CRM space, especially, and kind of the broader CX, which Salesforce is focusing on now. And that is it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on the big kind of Salesforce Dreamforce event that took place last week with lots of exciting announcements. I was just wondering which you found the most interesting and why.
Sure, Charlie. So with my 40,000 of my closest friends in San Francisco last week, there were a lot of announcements. A couple of things really stood out to me. First, obviously, Genie, talking about sort of the next generation CDP for Salesforce. There's a lot still to be explained there, but I think key takeaways looking at what Salesforce won't do, right? The partnerships with Snowflake and with Amazon showing that they're opening up, maybe not doing everything themselves, looking to data lake expertise and AI expertise coming from elsewhere. Certainly what we also saw was a lot of focus on making it easier to use and faster time to value for Salesforce customers, whether it's Salesforce Easy, packaging and pricing around Service Cloud, the automation packs with Service Cloud, really designed to help customers get more value more quickly. And finally, certainly the Slack story was a big story. If you talk about huddles or Canva, really differentiating how the value proposition for Slack is different from some of the other traditional collaboration tools, and really saying, video is just a channel. We need all of the pieces and not everything needs to be a Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all the recent Slack updates have been quite fascinating actually by Salesforce, and seeing how they're kind of incorporating Slack into lots of their various solutions, including the Service Cloud, which you mentioned there, is very interesting. And kind of just switching lanes as well now into a different topic that we've seen a lot about recently in kind of CX world, and that is conversational AI. And I just picked up on kind of a few really interesting few bits of research kind of around the conversational AI space. The first was from Gartner, which says conversational AI will automate 6 times more agent interactions than it does today by 2026. And also, but there's kind of a little maybe trouble there with Zendesk reporting that 60% of customers still suffer from frequent disappointment when interacting with chatbots. I don't know, Stephen, kind of your thoughts on this area and kind of your take on the current and future state of conversational AI?
Sure. There's no doubt that conversational AI is and will continue to grow massively because that's what providers are pushing. If you make more capabilities available or any channel available, people will try them and will use them. So there's a lot of growth still coming. I think it's also fair to say that we're still in the very early stages, very nascent stages of conversational AI development. In fact, I would say the vast majority of it isn't AI. It's just basically sort of predetermined decision trees, the equivalent of IVR in a chatbot or in a text chat format. And I think what's going to be really interesting and potentially much more powerful is when we truly bring AI into the experience, when we bring some machine learning into the experience. But most experiences today don't have that and are some way away from that. And I think the other thing to call out, and possibly the reason why so many customers do report disappointment with conversational AI experiences today, is because a lot of the conversational AI has been rolled out quite quickly. A lot of it was rolled out during the pandemic period because it was a way to try to deflect demand, to take demand away from live assisted channels. It was done on the fly. It was done quickly. It was done without a lot of user testing. And not surprisingly, in many cases, the experiences aren't quite up to expectation. So it's really back to the providers now to hone the experience, to make sure that what it's delivering to customers live up to the customer expectations, to overcome the somewhat poor reputation that early implementations have rightly or wrongly generated, and to bring proper AI in to really realize the potential.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a particularly interesting topic in terms of kind of the expectations people had of conversational AI early on, and perhaps kind of through many bad experiences over time, the reputation kind of suffered, and now bringing it back into focus. Now the technology is advancing. It's going to be interesting. It's definitely areas to keep an eye on. As is another technology sector, and that is the CCaaS market, which I believe has been estimated by one firm to grow by 11 times the size that it is now within the next 10 years. With actually, I think it's Twilio dominating that market currently, believing to own around 50% of that share, which is a huge chunk. Rebecca, it would be interesting to get your opinions on this topic. Where do you kind of see the future of CPaaS and the CCaaS market?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting space to watch, Charlie, because as we think about the different channels that customers interact with, as a customer, I don't think about channels. I think about getting my answer. But I also think about personalization, and I think about sort of the ethical use of that data. So one of the things that we found in a recent study was 1 in 3 consumers think marketing has gotten too creepy. Only a small portion of folks understand how cookies actually work. With that said, 3 out of 10 are willing to share more information with a company if they get value out of that sharing process. So I think as we think about sort of CPaaS coming together, we need to think about what is that orchestration and how do we manage that data in a meaningful way. So it's not just about inserting those different channels or touch points into different applications and processes, but how do we have a broader story about how we're managing customer data, how we're ensuring customer trust, and how we're ensuring that developers have the tools that they need to make sure that things like consent capture, data provenance, data expiration, all of those sorts of things are built into what they're delivering so they can focus on the innovation stuff instead of the guardrails.
Yeah, I think it's particularly interesting, with all these vendors coming to the fore and the ability to build differentiated experiences is so fascinating, I think, for the industry. But as you said, kind of supporting developers must be key. And I love the research that you mentioned there. And kind of we're very big on research. I'm sure all of us are. And we've kind of seen a lot of stats going around. It's interesting. You kind of mentioned how customer behaviours are shifting. I did see another report from Zendesk, I believe it was, that said customers are also becoming less patient than ever before. I think there's lots of interesting research out there at the moment. Stephen, I wonder if you've seen any other kind of recent shifts in customer behaviour that you think are particularly interesting.
So I think it's fair to say that it is and always will be true that customer expectations are moving and will continue to evolve probably faster than our ability to meet them. We keep raising the bar, the customers keep expecting more, and that will always be the case. But I think there also there are right now some very specific circumstances that drive this shift in patience and the behaviours that come with that. And that's quite simply put is because we have been living and we continue to live in very uncertain times. Of course, no one needs reminding of what the last 2 years have been like. And right now in the UK, in Europe, in the States, in Canada, we're dealing with all kinds of things. We're dealing with record high fuel prices, record inflation levels. Tomorrow in the UK, as of this recording, energy prices it will cost 25% more to provide energy to our homes. And all of that has a huge impact on the psyche of the customer. And all of that is driving this impatience, if you like, because when the wider environment is as challenging as it is, not surprisingly, people become impatient and they turn to contact centres for answers. And the increase in vulnerability that rising cost of living generates also drives an increase in urgency. So all of a sudden, that refund that you need is not just nice to have, it's something that you might actually need in order to make ends meet this month. So it's really, really important now that you get that refund sorted. So the other thing I'd mention as well, that the change in behaviour that we're seeing as a result of the reduction in patients is actually a reversion back to assisted channels. So, of course, for the last several years, we've seen a rise in self-serve, and that's continuing to rise. But we've also seen a rise, almost a reversion back to using voice and live chat, simply because customers need the reassurance that only a live contact center advisor can give them. We're hearing stories even of customers having successfully completed a self-serve transaction, but just picking up the phone so that they can get the reassurance of someone telling them, yep, it's gone through, you've done it. And I think we can all understand why that is, because in these uncertain times, people want the reassurance that a live channel can give.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating insights into the kind of current state of the customer's psyche, and also kind of how outside factors such as the economic uncertainty are affecting customers currently. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, Stephen, because we do have, as I mentioned at the start of this the show, a special guest waiting in the wings, who I'm delighted will come on and join us. He is Justin Robbins, Senior Director of Corporate Communications and Evangelism at UJET, and he has lots of exciting research into how the current economic uncertainty is affecting customers. And Justin, I don't know if you want to come on and discuss some of that research.
Hey Charlie, hey Rebecca, hey Stephen. Great to be with all of you today.
Yeah, it's great to have you on board with us, Justin. Obviously, you speak at a lot of contact center and CX events, and it's great to have you join us today. So I kind of set up your research a little bit there. I was wondering if you could kind of talk to us about some of the key findings that you've uncovered.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear, Stephen, what you were just saying in terms of what's happening from the consumer standpoint. Because I've tried to think about this problem from two standpoints: not only what are consumers doing, but what are brands doing to either anticipate or, in some case, exacerbate the pain that's being felt there. So what we did over the summer is I had this inkling that brands weren't totally aware or feeling what was happening with consumers. We were so focused on what's happening with larger economic markets or what's happening with the workforce that we're trying to do all these stopgap measures, and as we often do, lose sight of what's happening with consumers. So went out to about 1,600 consumers and was trying to understand three things. One was a bit around this idea of skimpflation. Do they really feel like brands are giving them lower quality or less product for the same or more money? So that was part one of it. Two is their general feeling right now in terms of where are they spending or not spending money. And the last piece, which we haven't even released all the findings on, goes a bit about the automation pieces. We've seen brands deploy self-service or automation. How do consumers actually feel that it's doing in terms of solving their problems? What's the big punchline here is that the shift in buyer behavior around brand skimping is significant. So much so that we saw 79% of consumers said that they were either going to cancel service or shift to a new provider based off of either cost cutting measures or just not seeing value in what they were getting from the brand today.
Yeah, I think I love that phrase, skimflation. I think it's a new one, but it is a particularly worrying trend if brands are cutting money and kind of the effects that that could have upon the customer experience. It's interesting to think about, and we talk more about this economic situation and how it is affecting CX. I guess maybe it's a good question for you, Stephen. Kind of should companies be worried that rising inflation could lead to more vulnerable customers?
Well, it's a fact. There's no disputing that vulnerability is on the rise. We did a piece on vulnerability at the CCMA almost exactly 12 months ago in the UK, and at that time, this is 12 months ago, in September 21, using the UK's Financial Conduct Authority's definition of vulnerability, we found that 2 out of 3 people in the UK in our survey, 2 out of 3, 66% of people using external definitions of the vulnerability were vulnerable. So that's not a smaller number of people. That's the majority of people were vulnerable in some way, either financially vulnerable or health vulnerable. That was a year ago. That was before we had everything that's happened since then and the current cost of living challenges that exist, not just in the UK, of course, but in many countries around the world. So I think it's fair to say that there is a crisis of vulnerability. Now, should companies be worried? Well, I think for me, it's reframing is what can companies be doing to tackle this epidemic of vulnerability? And there's a lot I could say about that, but I think all I'll just say right now is that the role of the contact center and of the customer experience has never been more strategically important than it is right now when we have this epidemic of vulnerability, because contact centers and customer experience represent the front line of how customers experience the brand, more so than ever before. How you deal with your customers, who are more likely than ever to be vulnerable, will have long-lasting impacts on business. And that's always been true, but it's never been more true than it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Justin, do you think that kind of Stephen's explanation there links very well to the research that you've been doing?
It does. So from the consumer standpoint, the big 3 things we heard where they felt brands were skimping out on the service. Number 1 was the actual quality of the interaction. 60-some% said quality of the service they're getting from companies has gone down. Not surprisingly, 58% said wait times. And we know that, between the Great Resignation or all of these other things, whether it's more demand and fewer people or both of them combined, right, we kind of understand why that's happening. But the bigger thing, which doesn't cost any money, 54% of consumers felt that the level of expertise and helpfulness that they were getting from contact center teams has gone down. And that blows my mind, because you're now not only having fewer agents who are maybe less skilled or less capable, and there could be a number of reasons why that's happening, but now you've got customers who, because I called in and I felt like Charlie couldn't help me, now I'm angry and I'm going to call back and I'm going to get Rebecca and I'm going to take that out on Rebecca, and it keeps compounding on itself. And I think that's the warning signal that I want brands to hear, is that this isn't just a customer expectations, it's also an operational excellence problem, and the two are right now at odds and causing compounding problems for our businesses.
Absolutely. I think it's a fascinating conversation. We could definitely carry it on. I think lots of great insights there. But Justin, while we quickly have you, actually, kind of as a contact center man through and through, I believe we spoke before, and you started in contact centers when you were as young as 13, I believe, and kind of worked in every position. I did see some interesting research from Gartner into kind of their CCaaS Magic Quadrant, and it'll be interesting to kind of hear your thoughts on it. We'll put it up on the screen for everybody that's watching now. But I was just wondering, is there anything in that surprised you, and do you believe that it is a useful tool for contact center leaders?
Yeah, great question. And here's what we are fortunate about when it comes to buying tools and technology. There are a lot of tools out there, but we have to understand what's the right tool for the job. And the Gartner Magic Quadrant is one tool that actually, speaking to Gartner just a couple of weeks ago, they realized that people often use a tool that was built for one thing in other ways that it's not always intended for. And when they built the Magic Quadrant, it was specifically for their clients that are looking to meet a specific need. And there's lots of criteria that have gone in and have changed throughout the years around that, whether it's around global presence, whether it's around capabilities, all sorts of things. And I think that for people that are looking for everything that exists within the Gartner Magic Quadrant, it should be one of the tools that they consider. Because it does give a good view. Like if it matters to you that, a company has presence across, multiple geographies, and that is a requirement for you, Gartner does a great job of validating that. I think it's also important to check though, when you're making your purchase from when you're using the Magic Quadrant, right? They cut off their submission deadline December 31st of the year prior. The report comes out in this case, September. And, I look what's on there and a lot has changed, not just for the providers that are on there, but for those that aren't. So I think it's important to, not just use it as one tool, but to look at other places like actual customer, reviews, or even going to Gartner and, they will tell you there are often solutions or things that aren't on there that, they would give high reference to, but, don't meet inclusion criteria by the time the report was completed. So is it a valuable tool? Yes. I think with any tool, we have to not use it as the only source for information. In terms of surprises, I think the biggest surprise is how little has changed in 3 years. From their point of view, when so much has changed. One of the exercises I always do is overlay the Magic Quadrant from year to year to year to year to year. And, not much has shifted. And from what I saw, where things did shift is people have actually fallen backwards. And there's perspective on how and why that is. But to me, it's one of many tools that, I think we need to always use caution when we're using one source, from one group of people to make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting actually that you said that, because I also overlaid the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant over the new one, and every vendor apart from, I think it may have been AWS, actually slipped back. And I think, it's very fascinating. But Rebecca, it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, kind of as an analyst yourself. And which other helpful analyst resources are out there that businesses should consider when making CX tech buying decisions?
Yeah, Charlie, I think you have to think about technology as being like shoes. They're not one size fits all, right? So understanding what is the best fit for you may be very different from what's the best fit for Stephen. The great news is there's lots of information available out there, and there's more and more community resources so I can learn about people who have the same size shoe as me that walk about the same number of miles a week, what their success or lack of success has been. So I think the community piece and understanding the community information and case studies that are out there, independent ones, are a really valuable source of information too. I think more and more as we think about economic uncertainty and time to value from a technology solution, a lot of it comes down to not just the data on features and functionality, but how a vendor is helping you achieve value, right? Whether it's industry-specific solutions, whether it's pre-built capabilities, those things that influence time to value and keep ongoing costs predictable are really important moving forward. Customers often say, knowing that the vendor was committed to making me successful was a key part in my decision process. And, they say if you're making a ham and cheese omelet, the chicken is involved, but the pig is committed. Right? So more and more customers, we say, let's look for those pigs who can really help us, making sure that we're not just successful in deploying the technology, but getting the most value out of it over time.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I think that statement is actually perfect, I think, to bring to an end this discussion. It's been fascinating kind of discussing all these various different topics and getting each of your perspectives. What I'll do is, for everybody watching, in the description below, I will make sure there are links to the research of Rebecca, Stephen's, and Justin's research. But for now, thank you to each of you for joining me for this CX show today. It was great to hear the thoughts of Rebecca, Stephen, and Justin. Thanks again for joining me. You can read all the topics discussed in this show by following the links below this video. You can also catch up on all the latest from the CX world by visiting www.cxtoday.com. But that's all from me now. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification alerts so you don't miss any more of our news and analysis. To keep up to date with all the latest news from the CX world, sign up to our weekly newsletter by clicking the link below the video. Thanks for watching.